The floor shook. Not a vibration, but a quake. The goblin champion stepped into the light. He stood 8 feet tall, a mountain of scarred green muscle and hate. His armor was a patchwork of rusted iron plates bolted directly into his skin. But it was his weapon that made my blood run cold. It wasn't a rusty club. It was a great sword, taller than a man, forged from a strange matte black metal. It didn't reflect the light. It seemed to swallow it. Target analysis. Champion. Threat level extreme. He roared, a sound that popped my ears, and charged. Distance, I told myself. Keep the distance. I raised the equalizer and fired. Boom. The blue beam struck him dead center in the chest, a shot that would have vaporized a normal goblin. The champion didn't stop. He didn't even slow down. He angled his black sword, and the kinetic beam deflected off the metal blade with a screeching sound, blasting a hole in the wall behind him. Impossible, I gasped. That metal, it dispersed the energy. He was on me in a second. He swung the sword. I ducked, activating the Aegis thrusters in my boots. The blade missed my head by an inch, but the wind pressure alone threw me off balance. I slammed into a stone pillar. Warning, impact detected. Armor integrity, 85%. I scrambled to my feet, but he was too fast for his size. He backhanded me with a fist the size of a boulder. Crunch. I flew across the atrium and crashed into the stairs. My vision blurred. Red warning lights flashed in my HUD. Too strong, I coughed, tasting blood. He is physically stronger than the suit's dampeners. The champion laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. He enjoyed this. He walked toward me slowly, dragging the black sword across the stone floor. Sparks flew. I aimed for his head. I pulled the trigger. Click. Jam? No. Overheat. The rapid firing from the ambush had stressed the cooling vents. Damn it! I holstered the gun and drew my combat knife. It felt like a toothpick against a dragon. The champion lunged. I rolled forward, sliding between his legs, slashing at his hamstring. The knife cut through the leather straps, but his skin was like old leather. It barely scratched him. He spun around with terrifying speed and kicked me in the chest. I hit the wall hard. I felt a rib crack. I fell to my knees, gasping for air. The suit was screaming warnings now. Battery, 15%, critical failure imminent. He grabbed me by the throat. He lifted me up one-handed, my feet dangling 2 feet off the ground. He brought his face close to mine. His breath smelled of rotting meat. He raised the hilt of his sword to crush my skull. Think, Aric, think! I couldn't break his grip. I couldn't shoot. He smashed the heavy metal pommel of his sword into my face. Crack! My helmet shattered. The visor exploded inward. Shards of glass and metal cut into my skin. A jagged piece of the helmet frame dug deep into my forehead, right above the left eyebrow. Blood poured down my face, blinding my left eye. The pain was blinding, white-hot agony. He drew back his hand for the killing blow. Not today, I wheezed. My hand found the overdrive release on my chest piece. I dumped the remaining 15% of the battery into the right arm gauntlet in a single burst. I didn't punch him. I grabbed the exposed flesh of his wrist, the hand holding me. Discharge! The gauntlet released a shockwave of pure electricity and heat directly into his nerves. The champion shrieked. His grip spasmed and opened. I dropped to the floor. I didn't retreat. I lunged up. I grabbed the equalizer. The cooling cycle was done. One shot in the crystal. I jammed the barrel under his throat, right into the soft flesh of his throat, bypassing the armor, bypassing the black sword. I looked into his yellow eyes. They were filled with fear now. Go to hell, I whispered through my broken teeth. Boom! The recoil nearly broke my wrist. The blast went straight up, exiting the top of his skull. The champion went rigid. Then, Like a tower collapsing, he fell backward. Thud. Silence returned to the ruin. I stood there, swaying. My suit was dead. The lights on the armor faded to black. My helmet was half torn off, hanging by wires. Blood dripped from my forehead, running down my nose, soaking into the collar of my coat. I wiped my eyes, smearing the blood. My hand shook uncontrollably. I looked at the massive corpse. I looked at the black sword lying next to him. I had won, but I was broken. Alara was right, I whispered, my voice breaking. I'm just a man playing soldier. The adrenaline faded, leaving only the cold, throbbing pain in my skull. But I couldn't stop. Not yet. The Goblin Champion was dead, but the mission wasn't over. I limped past the corpse, deeper into the facility. My suit's battery was critical, but I diverted the last reserves to my hacking interface. I found the blast door labeled Sector 4, Advanced Robotics. I forced it open with a crowbar, my muscles screaming. Inside, I expected to see rows of shining automata ready for war. Instead, I saw a graveyard. Huge assembly arms hung limp from the ceiling. The conveyor belts were stripped bare. The goblins hadn't just occupied this place. They had cannibalized it. They had melted down the high-tech alloys to make their crude swords and armor. No, I whispered, walking through the empty fabrication hall. Don't tell me it's all gone. I found a command console that still had a faint amber glow. I wiped the dust from the screen and jacked my suit's data cable into the port. Connecting. Accessing Project Iron Legion. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The blueprints. The screen flickered. A schematic appeared. A beautiful bipedal war machine. Perfect logic. Perfect lethality. Downloading blueprint. Error. Data corrupted. Segment 4 missing. Segment 8 missing. Come on, I begged, typing furiously with my one good hand. Give me something, anything. File deleted. The screen went black. The memory core had degraded centuries ago. The blueprints were dust. I punched the console in frustration, cracking the screen. Damn it! I turned away. Forget the robots. The map. I need the map. I stumbled toward the back of the facility, to the Dimensional Research Wing. This room was untouched by the goblins. It was sealed by a pressure lock I had to override manually. In the center of the room stood a massive ring, a dormant portal, and next to it, the navigation computer. I limped over to it. I felt a surge of hope. This computer was shielded. It might still have the data. Show me Earth, I whispered. Show me the way home. I activated the terminal. A holographic globe appeared in the air. It showed a galaxy map. Searching coordinates. Sector 001. Terra. The hologram spun. Stars flew by. And then, for 1 second, I saw it. A blue and green planet. Earth. Match found. Tears welled in my eyes. I found it. I can go home. Calculating trajectory. Warning. Power failure. The lights in the room flickered. The hologram of Earth distorted, turning into static. No, don't you dare! I grabbed the console, trying to stabilize the power, but the facility's generator was dead. It had just enough juice for one last boot sequence. System shut down. The hologram vanished. The screen died. The room plunged into absolute darkness. I stood there in the dark, my hand resting on the cold metal. I was so close. I saw it. It was right there. It's gone, I whispered, my voice breaking. Time ate it. Time took everything. I was the architect of nothing. I was just a grave robber standing in an empty tomb. Defeated, hollowed out, I walked back to the atrium. The body of the Goblin Champion still lay there. Next to him lay the greatsword, the the black metal blade. I knelt beside it. "What are you?" I asked the sword dully. "You survived. The computers died. The robots rusted. But you survived." I reached out with my left hand, the one with the intact glove, to touch the blade. Zit! A shock, violent and invasive, shot up my arm. It wasn't electricity. It felt like hunger. System alert. Compatible material detected. Initiating assimilation protocol. "Wait, what?" I stammered. "Cancel." The system didn't listen. The black nanotech fabric of my glove suddenly liquefied. Tiny silver and black tendrils erupted from my fingertips, latching onto the sword like roots. They didn't just cover the weapon, they ate it. I watched in horror as the massive greatsword began to dissolve. The solid metal turned into a black sludge that flowed up my arm, disappearing into the Aegis suit. My arm burned. It felt like molten lead was being injected into my veins. Analyzing structure. Kinetic dampening alloy acquired. Downloading muscle memory. Savage strike acquired. Images flashed in my mind. Not my memories, his memories. I saw the goblin champion swinging the sword. I felt the weight of the blade. I felt the technique. Then the system screamed a warning. Warning. Energy reserves critical. Assimilation cost 95%. "Stop!" I yelled, ripping my hand away. The connection severed. The sword was gone, consumed entirely. I fell back on the stone floor, gasping. My suit was completely dead now. It ate the weapon, I realized, staring at my hand. It absorbed the material properties. It copied the technique. I looked at the equalizer. I touched it. Nothing. "Why?" I asked. "Why eat the sword but not the gun?" It had to be the material, ancient metal. My gun was modern steel. The suit was a cannibal. It only ate its own kind. I am wearing a parasite, I thought, a shiver running down my spine. I dragged myself out of the ruin. The sun was setting. Shadow was waiting. I climbed into the saddle. No artifacts, no robot army, no map home. Just a headache that felt like a drill boring into my skull, and a suit that eats metal. "Let's go home, Shadow." The ride back was long and silent. The physical pain was sharp, but the hollow ache in my chest was worse. I had been so close to seeing Earth again, so close to leaving this nightmare. Now, that door was slammed shut. I arrived at the manor under the cover of night. I didn't go to the front door. I went straight to the stables. I couldn't let anyone see the Aegis suit like this. I stripped off the torn coat. I peeled off the dead black armor and hid it in the false bottom of the feed bin. I took a roll of medical gauze from my saddlebag and wrapped my head tightly, covering the deep gash on my forehead. I put on a spare white shirt I kept for emergencies. When I was done, I didn't look like the architect. I just looked like a man who had been beaten half to death in a back alley. I walked toward the manor, entering through the kitchen to avoid the servants. I just wanted to get to my room and stare at the ceiling. I opened the door. Standing there, by the stove, holding a cup of herbal tea, was Ilara. She wasn't supposed to be back yet. She turned. She saw me. She didn't see a cyborg. She didn't see a soldier. She saw her husband, standing in the doorway, his head wrapped in bloody bandages, his face pale and bruised, his eyes filled with a profound, crushing sadness. She dropped her teacup. Smash! The porcelain shattered on the floor, echoing in the silence. "Aric?" she whispered, her voice trembling with genuine horror. "My gods, you are bleeding. Where have you been?" I looked at her. For one split second, I wanted to tell her everything, but the words died in my throat. Trust is a luxury I cannot afford, especially not with her. If I told her the truth, if she sensed even a fraction of what I really am, she wouldn't see a survivor. She would see a demon who had stolen Aric Valorian's body, and she would burn me alive for it. I didn't collapse. I didn't faint. I forced my legs to lock. I refused to show weakness, even though my soul felt as heavy as lead. I went for a walk, I croaked, my voice devoid of hope. I stepped past her, my eyes fixed on the dark hallway ahead. I wasn't falling physically, but inside, I was already on my knees.